Welcome to Rugby Uncovered. I'm Paul Rodriguez, and my co-host Tom Nash will be talking to Giselle Mather. She's the Director of Rugby at Wasps Ladies. Welcome to the show, Giselle.
Thank you. How are you all?
Very well, thank you, Giselle. Very well. Thank you very much for asking. So we've got a bit of time to talk to you. Normally we're just trying to catch you either before or after a game, and there's not much time to talk then. So one of the advantages of this current situation is perhaps we could go back a little bit further and ask a bit about your history, which is fascinating. Could you just tell us a bit about how you got into rugby?
I was a hockey player first. Well, I played lots and lots of different sports, but invested a lot into hockey when I went to university, and had been playing all through school and what have you, and had a moment on a pitch in Devon, grass pitch in Devon, which shows my age, and I was almost looking at myself from above, and I was digging up the centre circle with my hockey stick, really, really bored and disinterested. So I went back to college, and I said to my partner at the time, who was a first-class player for down in Wales, because it wasn't professional at that time, but he was first-class player down in Wales for rugby, and I told him what happened. He said, well, why don't you try rugby? I said, oh, don't be so stupid. But one thing led to another. We did a course on how to teach it in my degree, and then I started having a go at it, and long story short, went to Exeter Club because I was at Exeter Uni, went to Exeter Club, and I didn't enjoy it that much. But then went to, in the holidays up here where I live, met up with a group of people who were playing, and they were a fantastic bunch of girls, all of us learning together. It was great fun, and the rest is history, as they say.
So what was different about rugby to the other sports that you played?
Well, that goes back perhaps a bit longer. That my dad took me on my 10th birthday to watch England-Brazil football at Wembley Stadium. And I remember that moment where I came out of the concourse up the steps and was hit by just this cacophony of noise and visual and everything. I was like, oh, my God. And then listening to the national anthem and watching the game, and at that moment thought, right, I want to play for my country. Don't know how, and in what sport, but I want to play for my country. So I played loads and loads of different sports, and when I eventually found rugby, the football that I'd played meant that I could kick a ball. The netball that I played meant that my hand-eye was pretty good. I'd done judo, so my contact skills were good. I'd done fencing to quite a high level, so my footwork wasn't bad. And, cricket, so understanding of tactics and different things at different moments, all of these things all came together. And when I found rugby, I needed all of them. And I'd never been quite good enough in any of those others to release the dream of playing for my country. I got to reasonable levels at various sports. But when I found rugby, all of those things that I'd done all came together, and I found out that I was pretty good at it quite quickly. And then was like, right, here we go. And that's what happened.
So being a good player doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good coach, but you are regarded as one of the finest coaches in the business. How did you discover that you were actually a good coach as well?
Well, my passion for coaching, I was a PE teacher trained. That's what I was doing at Exeter, was a PE degree. And so I taught for 14 years. And therefore a lot of coaching and teaching are very, they're very similar, and there's a lot of parallels. There are a lot of differences as well, but organising a session and things like that was bread and butter to me because I'd spent 14 years doing it in school. But the nuances of, and having played the game to there and been exposed to several coaches as a player, and when I stopped playing to have a family, I knew that I still wanted to be involved in the game. So that transition was quite straightforward, but the nuances of coaching is the bit that you learn day by day by day. So the journey that I've travelled helps you to become a better coach on a daily basis.
So that's something that I've observed from anybody who's good at something. They always say that they're always learning, and you're saying exactly the same thing. You've never really arrived. You're always trying to be better at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would you observe as being the main characteristics of a good coach?
Wow, that's a question and a half. The first thing, I think you have to know yourself. You have to be true to who you are, because you get so many different challenges. That's one of the reasons I love it so much. It's never dull, and nothing is ever the same, because players turn up with different things having happened to them during that day, with different things going on in who they are at that minute in time and what they're dealing with and coping with. The complexity of several individuals to form a team, a squad, how the different elements of the game require different things out of the players, the contact side of it, the fitness side of it, and where anyone is on a given moment is different every day, and I love that, and how team dynamics will work. But you have to know yourself, so you have to know where your triggers are, what you're about, so that when all these different things are happening, you've got a core that you go to, if you know what I mean. You can draw on knowing what your values are, what your beliefs are, and they come out. I think to be a good coach, you've got to be consistent. You can't be a grumpy old bugger one minute and they're bouncing off the rooftops happy as the next minute. That's inconsistency for players, and they don't know where they are with you. Yeah, we all have our bad moments, of course we do, but I'm talking on a more consistent level. And knowing yourself helps you do that. I think you have to have your good knowledge of your game and a real vision about how you see the game, what your philosophy is around it, and how you communicate that. Your clarity has got to be good, and find ways of doing it. I think being quite creative helps, different ways to bring players out of themselves, to help them understand the game, to help them understand themselves as people. Little things like that. Genuinely caring, I think that's really, really important. You're passionate about what you do, and you're caring about the people that are in front of you. And, I think that's a big thing as well. So, but it's such a multifaceted thing, coaching, that to actually define as what makes a good one. I've seen several different people doing lots of different things that I would still describe all as good, and the reverse. Lots of things I've seen, I've gone, oh my God, you're kidding me. But it's not a one size fits all. I think you have to, and knowing yourself and being consistent with that is perhaps the key thing for me.
So do you mould your coaching style to the players that you have, or do you try to mould the players to the style of coaching that you would like to affect?
Cool. That's an interesting one. I think that a good coach is on a continuum, depending on what's needed at any given moment. So there's times when I need to encourage, there's times when I need to challenge, there's times when I need to say, no, that's not right. There's times where I need to accept that there's a better way than what I thought of. There's times that there's just times for everything, and it's about knowing, being able to operate along a continuum rather than saying, this is how I do it and everybody will fit in with this, or this is how, it really is, because you're dealing with human beings. And also with rugby itself is a really chaotic sport. And it's, that just what's happening on the field at any given moment. There's obviously structural moments in it, but it is a chaotic sport, and to be good at it, you've got to operate in chaos. So being didactic in a way of coaching, I don't think is the way to go. But as I said, you have to be consistent in how you present yourself, but how you respond to certain situations depends on what you're facing and what you feel to be the right moment at that time.
What do you think makes a good player? What are you looking for?
Cool. These are good questions. A good player, a student of the game, I would say, a massive willingness to learn, a thirst for knowledge, willingness to try things, willingness to get things wrong, happy to fail in order that they can then move forward and improve. Somebody who drives the standards, and again, who's consistent in their approach. Somebody who looks out for others, because we're a team sport, and is willing to promote others as well as themselves. Passion for the shirt they're wearing at the time, really important. I think that's somebody who really wants to do it for their team and their club. Obviously, a good talent base. But yeah, that real willingness to learn, that willingness to try things, and massively open to feedback in whatever form it comes in.
Brilliant. And how do you think the game has changed since you started playing?
Well, when I started playing, it was only 15 players that could take the field, and the bench was only there if somebody was genuinely injured. So you couldn't make substitutions. So that's a pretty big difference.
Wow.
Yeah, and ironically, we could be moving back away from the amount of substitutes we're allowed to use, or finishers, or whatever word you like to use, because people are starting to say, well, it's just generating a certain type of athlete, and rugby has always been a game for all shapes and sizes. But if you become a power athlete, then the endurance factor isn't so high, but you can just at the moment replace one power athlete for another one. Whereas rugby used to be about a bit of both, and now if you're very, very strong and you spend a lot of time in the gym, but you don't cardio necessarily so long, you don't get found out because you just get substituted and somebody else comes on who's of equal measure. And the game used to be about wearing each other out. And, you could say, right, their set of forwards are a lot bigger than ours, but if we run them ragged for the first 60 minutes, in the last 20, they're going to tire and we'll win that way. And that used to happen that way, whereas now everybody seems to have to be really, is really big, and then you replace them with somebody else who's really big, so it becomes a real power, carry game rather than a finesse and throw the ball about game. So there's chat in the game that may well diminish. You obviously need replacements. Reducing them from 8 maybe to 5 might be the way to go, but we'll have to see.
Great stuff. Over to you, Tom.
First thing I wanted to ask, have you done things in the last 100 days that you've never done before, and maybe not since life pre-rugby?
That makes me think. Okay, so last 100 days from a professional or a personal point of view?
Both. This has been an unprecedented time for all of us. I'm just interested in you as a person, what you've done. Okay,
so from a professional point of view, something I've never done before, I did a webinar which reached virtually all the Spanish-speaking countries in the world, and that was fascinating to do. So, just preparing it myself, it was on cultural leadership, and just preparing that makes real reflection on yourself, but then to deliver it with a Spanish interpreter going along and that was fascinating and really interesting to do. I've obviously had an opportunity to listen to loads of other coaches in rugby through webinars and from other sports, which has been, you don't get time to delve into that so much. But then there's a challenge alongside that, because there's so much out there at the moment that you end up losing who you are if you're not careful in all of that. So it's then bringing it down to the size of a playing card, what you could write on a playing card that you want to then put into yourself, rather than having a mass of stuff and you go back on the field and the players will just go, what the hell is going on here? So you need to get what's right for you and what fits for you and your way of being and your way of believing, your philosophy. So that's all been fascinating. Dealing with, I think from there, the strategic point of what I do has obviously been bonkers during this period of time, and I've never dealt with so many variables in my life that strategically change literally day by day. Strategy is usually something that evolves and changes much more slowly. Well, the strategies you're having to employ at times are literally changing day by day. And the development plan that I had for this 3 years that I had to put together to get us into years 4, 5, 6 for the Premier 15s is ripped up and gone. It doesn't exist anymore because it doesn't fit. Everything's changed. So that's been a big thing professionally. Zoom, never been on a Zoom call in my life till this. Didn't realise that it was out there as a tool, and it's actually been it's been a fantastic tool to use. Yeah, you can have moments where you're completely zoomed out, but it's allowed me to keep connected with my squad. in such a great way, and all of them to stay connected. And so that's been invaluable. Obviously, an opportunity to reflect on what we did last season. So I've done lots of that. From a personal perspective, new things. I've had supper at the table regularly with my family. That just doesn't happen. And I've virtually succeeded in having no mobile phone at the table. And I have teenagers who are my kids now. So that is a major accomplishment in this 100 days. So, and really nice to do, to have supper together is, because it, obviously a lot of coaching's in the evenings and what have you, and they're out doing their sport and all sorts. And we as a family have actually connected at supper time, which is pretty cool. This will sound random, but I've painted a wizard. And painted 2 chairs that are I bought ages ago that were wooden, but I wanted to paint them black to go with our breakfast bar. So I got them, and they've been sat there for a year as wooden, and now they've been painted. So that's pretty cool. And they look quite good. I've not driven my car, hardly at all. I've had 1 tank of petrol. That's random. Can't remember the last time that didn't need that. Money Heist. Have you watched Money Heist?
I haven't. I've heard it's very good.
I have. I watch it. I'm raving about it and driving everybody mad because everybody says, "Oh, can you suggest something?" This is what I would suggest. But I watch it from a coaching perspective, which I know sounds really weird, but it's so basically you've got 2 teams. You've got the team of robbers and you've got the police team, and pretty much the whole thing is they're up against each other. And the dysfunctions in one team, they both have their dysfunctions as teams at certain times. You have, challenging moments. You have things that come flying in from left field that they anticipate or they don't anticipate, how they plan, their detail. Oh, I've just absolutely loved it. So it's all in Spanish, so you can get it as the you can watch it voiced over, but I haven't done that. So that meant I've really had to concentrate because you have to read what's going on in front of you and not do other things while you watch something on TV, which I often do. So that's been amazing. I've loved that. What else? Cut my husband's hair. Never cut anyone's hair before, so that was entertaining. And a bit of self-care. With my husband bought the family invested in a Peloton bike at Christmas, and I'd barely been on it. Well, now I'm on it at least 3-4 times a week, which is fantastic. So a little bit of there. And another one, actually, it was my birthday during lockdown. Never had a birthday in lockdown, obviously. But my players, I have a thing of chaos and confusion at the club. We do a lot of cultural work on dealing with chaos and confusion. They all sent me cards that they didn't sign and just said, "You've got to guess who it is." And unbelievable. So much fun, and just cut and the cards could, because obviously deliveries are a little bit random at this time. The cards kept coming for about a week, and I was having to. I'd think that I'd got one right, and then it would turn up, and then that one I thought, oh, that must be that player. It was brilliant. It was ingenious by my players, absolutely ingenious. So that was a lot of fun as well. So yeah, lots of different things.
Excellent. So it was a birth week, not a birthday.
Yes, it was. It was a lot of fun, but very clever by them. Very clever.
So your Zoom sessions with individual members of the squad, that has been to see how they're following their training regimes, how they are coping psychologically, or
not just individual. We every Tuesday we've only had. We were supposed to have a week off, but we had another. We did do a call in the end on a Tuesday, but we've been every Tuesday is what we call a social call. So we've had quizzes, we've played bingo, we had a cook-off where all of us had the same recipe and we had to cook all together in our own houses and then eat together at the table with the computer screen there. So you've got all these little boxes of people cooking and eating, and one of the players who suggested that we do this was running a commentary on it and saying what we were doing well and what we weren't doing well and stuff, which was a lot of fun. We had Switch the Play come and present to us on transition in sport. We did a Black Lives Matter massive conversation around that, which was hugely powerful. So that's our Tuesday stuff, and it's at the same time as we would train. Then on Thursday we have a mass workout, which is led by our strength and conditioner, all in our own homes, obviously, and everybody works out on that. And then on Saturdays we split. Blacks go first at 10 o'clock, where they they do a workout, and the forwards do a big strong prehab stuff on movement and best ways to move, etc. with LJ, their forwards coach. So we've been very, very connected in that way all the way through. And so we I have obviously used it to have individual player opportunities to talk about their individual development plans and other bits and bobs, and just general check on well-being. That's how they're doing. So we do a well-being questionnaire every 2 weeks, and people who flag on that, I call up to make sure they're doing all right. So yeah, we've done a lot, and I personally feel I'm going to have the best prepared squad I've ever had to start pre-season. So because they're looking after themselves so well, and the stuff we're doing is obviously not heavy lifting because they don't have the heavy weights, but it's attention to detail stuff that you don't often get the time to do, and the strength and conditioners loved having that time to prepare them, as has my forwards coach LJ. So the girls have been amazing responding, and we've kept ourselves together. Culturally, it's great because I've got to know the players in a different way, because it is different when you're over Zoom, and the chats that we have and the communication between us all has been fantastic.
Brilliant. And now you are back on the same field training together, or?
No, we're not allowed yet. It's the obviously we're not the TP15s anymore because the sponsorship's gone, but it's going to take a while to not call it that. But the Premier 15s, we are all on regular calls now, weekly calls with the RFU, all clubs on together, because we've got to do this together. We have to, there's really restrictive rules on us at the moment in terms of financial cost. To come back, it would cost us a fortune to do all the right testing and the stuff that we have to do that's going on in the men's game and the Gallagher Premiership. But obviously they need to get going because they've got a season to finish. Ours was null and void. So we're now got to decide when we're going to go back, how we're going to go back, and when our pre-seasons can start en masse. So we're going to be doing that as a united front, which I think is fantastic. And that's where we're at the moment in those discussions as to when that will start and when that will happen.
Do you see the laws of the game altering in any way once we're back up and running, hopefully September? I guess that is the intended start of the new season. Do you see the laws being changed radically?
Well, obviously the Super 5 competition that's going on in New Zealand, because that's an internal competition between them, they've been able to tweak certain laws, which was quite entertaining to watch last week, around kicking from 22s into opposition halves and things like that. But the actual one that people are perceiving as law changes, but they're not law changes, is the breakdown, because they're actually not law changes. They're just the game has asked that it's refed correctly. Now, that's interesting in itself because, as we all know, and it's interpreted by the referee, and the way those interpretations have been in the last couple of years has meant for a really messy situation, and often, in my mind, quite dangerous situations. And there were 30 penalties in each of the games last weekend, which is a massive amount for that elite level. But it's because players are having to adapt, and you've been doing something for 2-3 years habitually, even though they have been training to try and change that. Obviously, they've not been back in training for that long, so it's going to take a while. But hopefully, we'll resort in a much tidier, much clearer, and much quicker ball. But my mind looked at it last week and thought, well, if a defender can get in quick, the attack's snuffed out in half a second. The refs were blowing it so fast. Well, at least they did in the first game, but not so fast in the second game. So the breakdown laws have got to change. Well, not change, have got to be refereed in the way that they were. And that should have a significant impact on what the game looks like. But we will have to wait and see.
So this could be, I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but this could be one of those almost unheard of occasions when the game might be improved, made more entertaining as a result of all this?
Yes, but again, us coaches will probably do what we can to to change all that. But, it'll be interesting from both sides of the ball. There's already certain things that you look at where the support of the ball carrier has got to be immediate, either or of the tackle. If you put in a dominant tackle, I can see you having a massive opportunity to snuff out an attack there and then with the second player in. But the support systems around that contact area, the second player in, that's the race. It's a race for which second player gets in, and then there's the decision making around the defensive. Is it worth racing in? Is it worth, do we hold on this one because they've got it covered? There'll be all that stuff going on. But hopefully it will mean quicker ball, which means that you can put more width on the ball, which is always more exciting to see.
Yeah. My final question, Giselle, the Development League, the second 15 league, it won't feature from the start of this coming season. Does this mean that the number of players you have available to you will effectively be halved?
It's not halved, it's gone to 40. So we have to register a squad of 40, and then another 10 players that are what's called dual registered, who predominantly that idea is aimed at those that are going to be future players of TP. So development pathway players, academy players. But I think in the first couple of years, it might not be quite the youngsters yet, because we've got a lot of players in the game who perhaps a bit older, who were knocking on the door of TPs but not quite ready yet. So I perceive them getting those spots first off in most squads with a couple of the youngsters. But yeah, it goes to 40 players.
And will that affect the way you train, because you've got fewer bodies available to you potentially?
Yeah, but there's a lot of moving parts in this for us, specifically at Wasps. So we'll all have different models of how we're going to do this across the league. But for me at Wasps, I'm waiting on the RFU to allow me to set up a second team that will it's not allowed to be connected to the TPs in sense of funding or what have you. It has to stand alone, which the Wasps FC are very, very keen that we do. And a lot of I'm hopeful. It depends on the level that the RFU put us in, and that's a complicated story. And I'm waiting on finding that. So if they put us in a level that is the right level of the game for the calibre of players that will be going into that side, then we can form it. If they're going to put them into a level of the game that isn't, then we can't, because the players will be too strong for certain, depending on which level they put us in. So I'm awaiting on that. And if I have that, then there will be opportunities for that side to train with mine, sometimes against mine. Players that aren't getting game time for the TP side will get game time for the amateur side, so to speak, if that's what we're going to call them. But there's a lot of moving parts in that, which is one of the strategic things that is ever moving in this period of time that I was talking about earlier.
Sure. I mean, the key thing, I guess, is to continue to encourage girls and women to come in and take part at this stage.
100%, absolutely, and obviously at the level that we're hoping to take part, but also to continue to develop, to be the best players they can be. So I had a very strong development side, some very, very good players in that side, and and very ambitious players in that side who want to play, who want to move up into the Premier 15 side, and even further would aspire to play for their country in their time. So I want a side that allows them to continue to play, but more than that gives them what they really want from the game.
Sure. Well, hopefully not much will change as a result of this. It sounds good what you guys are doing. Giselle, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure, as ever.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giselle. We look forward to seeing you pitch side soon, and just wish you all the best. Can't wait, indeed.
Yeah,
and,
can't wait. Time to get back on the grass. I cannot wait. Seriously.
Yeah, it's just going to be just an amazing moment, and just wish you all the best for the upcoming season.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Look after yourself.
Thanks, Giselle. All the best.
If you'd like to be on the show, just drop us a message. We're on Twitter at Rugby Uncovered and on Instagram at Rugby Uncovered. Or you can drop us an email, paul@rugbyuncovered.com. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.